Types of errors or error types. This is the second of a four-part video series by Peggy Marcy from Cal State University, San Bernardino, California. As always, I seek to synthesize information from other sources. In this case, in 2008, Yoshida synthesized error types from Mackey, Gass, and McDonough in 2000 and Nishita in 2004. And I'm going to add another type at the end that's mentioned in a terrific article by Mendez and Cruz in 2012. The first type of error is morphosyntactic error. It's a big word that essentially refers to grammar errors. Mistakes in word order, tenses, conjugation, and particles fall into this area. Research shows that most instructors spend the majority of their time addressing these types of problems. Another type of error is phonological errors. This is the mispronunciation of words, but Mendez and Cruz suggest it also includes suprasegmental mistakes, such as those of stress, intonation, pauses, and rhythm. Lexical errors are another type. These include vocabulary used incorrectly, or inserting L1 words because they don't know the correct term in English. While learners should be able to use their primary language to assist their learning, usually it's helpful when the instructor or another peer can offer the English word so that the speaker can broaden their English vocabulary. In other words, don't do it in a punitive manner, but in an enlightening manner. The next error that Yoshida presents is semantic errors. He used this error to cover everything that wasn't morphosyntactic, phonological, or lexical. However, I would like to suggest that semantic errors deal with misunderstandings and mistakes that confuse the meaning of the conversation. But I want to add another type of error called pragmatic errors. Mendez and Cruz include these under semantic errors, but I feel like they are unique enough to have their own category. Current research shows that when we teach vocabulary items, we should include the register attached to it, meaning how formal or informal it is. Errors in register or nonverbal gestures would fall into this category. So, most research uses the four generic types of errors presented by Yoshida, although to be fair, he did include a fifth one that was specific to Japanese about kanji reading errors. Looking at these error types, I've already said that instructors usually focus on morphosyntactic problems. But can you guess what type of corrections learners appear to catch and use the most? Phonological and lexical. In fact, even when the teacher presents morphosyntactic feedback, the student often processes it as either phonological or lexical. That's really fascinating to me and suggests that learners are very good at finding ways to help themselves. Lastly, when it comes to which type of errors should be corrected, instructors usually believe they should focus on important mistakes that cause communication misunderstandings. Let me interrupt myself here and explain that sometimes I use mistakes as a synonym for error, but in reality there's a difference in research. Usually mistakes are slips of the tongue or incorrect language use that the learner knows is wrong, whereas errors are incorrect language use because of not knowing that language point. Okay? So there is a difference between errors and mistakes, but often I use them, and most teachers use them as synonyms. Students usually think that every mistake should be corrected, although not necessarily publicly. I suggest a combination. I recently pointed out to a student that the correct abbreviation of professor is prof, P-R-O-F, and not pro. She was grateful, but wondered how she could have gone through so many classes without anyone correcting it. I explained that none of the other professors considered it a communicative error, so they didn't provide feedback on it. I had commented on it because I suspected it was a persistent error. So even if a mistake is not large enough to influence understanding, if it's clear that the learner is consistently having this problem, I suggest you provide corrective feedback. But you do yourself and the student a disservice if you try to correct every mistake, because the learner's brain won't know what is truly important to repair. In summary, error types are morphosyntactic, phonological, lexical, and semantic, although I suggested giving pragmatic mistakes their own category instead of including them under semantic. And correct errors that affect communication and are persistent errors. The next two videos will look at corrective feedback types.